I'm Tom from Do-It-Yourself Home Automation, and this is a look at how to assemble the Switchhook COVID-19 door tool. So as I've shown in other videos, this is a tool that you can use to open doors and other kinds of contaminated surfaces during COVID-19 or another viral outbreak. It's free and open source. You can download it on Thingiverse and you can 3D print it at home. It's created by a friend of mine, and I'm just going to show how you actually assemble it and put it together. So these are the parts that come out of my 3D printer. This is the main body assembly. These are two little pieces to the pin here. And you have to print two of these out from the thing files on the website there. This is the middle center pin here. I'm going to zoom in. And the first thing I did was just to remove any little extra bits of raft or support from this one, because it does end up being kind of a tight squeeze. And then this is the actual hook itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is to take this hook, and I'm going to actually place it inside of the main body here. And I'll just pause for a second. Actually, I'm going to just slide it in, so that's good. So that's aligned in here, and you just want to get the holes to line up so that this is on the inside. Next, I'm going to take a look at the hole here, and you can see that it's actually a D shape. So there's two little flat pieces at the bottom here. Now, if I look at these little side pieces here, you can see that if I zoom in, one side is curved and one side is actually flat. That's the side that would be oriented towards the build plate when you're printing it. And I'm just going to align these two halves of the pin in here with the flat side facing down. So I'm going to pause for a second and come back when that's done. Okay, so you can see these are both inserted. Now, just to force these out to the sides of the hole so that there's room for the next step, I like to get a kind of tapered object, like I use a pen in this case, and I just insert it down into the middle here and just kind of force those out. You can see it forces them to the sides here, and that makes enough space for the next step, which is that I'm going to take this pin and I'm going to find the pointy end of it. So one end is flat, one end is pointy, and I'm going to take the pointy end and put it into here, and then I'm going to start to push that in. So I'll pause again and come back. So you can see that's inserted. That's going to start to lever these out towards the side. Now from here, there's two ways that you can finish this. You can take a hammer and lightly hit on this until it's all the way flush and locked in place. Or I found it sometimes works as well to take this and press it down onto a surface if you don't have a hammer to work with. And if you sit above it and put one hand on each side of this and lever it down into the surface, that can actually work. The thing you risk is just snapping that peg off. So let me grab a hammer and we can do that method, and then we'll see the next step. Okay, so I have my hammer ready, and I'm just going to start lightly tapping this down in here. Okay, very easy. That's now flush, and that's the full assembly. So the next step I find, you press this button, and then the hook will be able to slide out of the side on here. When I first set these up, sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get it going. So I'm just going to try switching hands here, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so the concept here is I can press this button in and then flick this open. And you can see the first time that I do it, it usually doesn't immediately work. And that just might be because I've had some warping on here. You can see this is definitely pulled away from the build plate. And just in general, the tolerances and the way that I'm doing this are not perfect. So what I find helps a lot is I just press the button in. And on the first time, I actually use my finger to just lever that open. And that's how it's going to work ultimately with this hook. And then I try to get as much of this support material off as I can. And I just do this action a couple of times. And I find that, whatever it is that's sort of catching, again, in my pretty low quality build process here, if I do this several times over, then it usually kind of wears down those surfaces or whatever, and this will work a lot more smoothly. So let me do that a couple of times, and then we'll come back. Okay, and then I've loosened this up a little bit, so now I'll press this, and we'll give it a nice swing. You can see it opens and locks into place there. And I can close it back up again with another flick. And I find that over time, this is still a little bit sticky, but over time, as I use this more, it really wears down and ends up working, very seamlessly. So there's a flick open, there's a flick closed, and now this is working great. I can go ahead and flick it open and then open a door or whatever I need to do out in the environment with this. So that's how I assemble the Switchhook COVID-19 door tool. Again, I'll put a link to the Thingiverse file down in the description down there. If you have any questions or comments on how you've done this yourself, please leave them down there in the comments. If you found this helpful in any way, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps.